What happens when fame turns to dust? When a star's shining moment is snuffed out by a single mistake? These 15 American icons were blacklisted by CNN, never to be seen again on their platform. How did they fall so hard, so fast? With shocking scandals and unthinkable decisions, these figures once ruled the media, and now they're erased. Keep watching to uncover the shocking truth behind their bans and the cost of being caught in the spotlight's harshest glare. Roseanne Barr, 2018. Imagine being on top of the world, only to have everything unravel with a single tweet. That's what happened to Roseanne Barr in 2018, when she sent out a racist tweet that targeted Valerie Jarrett, a former advisor to President Obama. The backlash was immediate, and the fallout was brutal. Her hit show Roseanne, which had just been revived to massive success, was canceled in an instant. But that was just the beginning. CNN, a major media outlet, distanced itself from the comedian, refusing to cover her or provide any platform for her voice. The fall from grace was swift, and for many, Barr's descent into controversy marked the end of an era. Once a beloved figure, she became a symbol of how quickly the media can turn on you. Was this the inevitable consequence of crossing a line in the digital age? Or was it an unforgivable mistake that forever sealed her fate? Mel Gibson, 2006. Mel Gibson's world came crashing down in 2006, not from a failed film or career misstep, but from a shocking outburst during a DUI arrest. Gibson's anti-Semitic rant during the arrest made headlines worldwide, and the damage to his reputation was irreversible. Once a Hollywood darling, Gibson was blacklisted by major media outlets, including CNN, which refused to cover him or interview him after the scandal. His career never truly recovered, despite occasional attempts at redemption. Gibson's journey from A-list star to pariah is a reminder of how quickly fame can turn to infamy when personal demons become public spectacles. What made this fall so dramatic was how the once celebrated director found himself exiled from the very platform that once adored him. Charlie Sheen, 2011. What happens when the life of a star becomes a real-life reality show? That's what we all witnessed in 2011, when Charlie Sheen's bizarre, erratic behavior became the talk of Hollywood. His infamous Today Show meltdown and a series of outrageous interviews sparked public concern and media frenzy. The star of 2.5 Men was quickly cast aside by major networks, including CNN, who refused to air any further interviews or segments involving him. What seemed like a temporary crisis turned into a full-fledged career implosion. His erratic outbursts and volatile persona made him an untouchable figure in mainstream media. Sheen's downfall serves as a cautionary tale of how the line between public entertainment and personal destruction can blur. And when it does, the media isn't afraid to cut ties. Kathy Griffin, 2017. When Kathy Griffin posed for a photo shoot holding a bloody, decapitated head of President Donald Trump in 2017, she sparked immediate outrage. While some defended it as art, others saw it as a violent and disturbing act that crossed a line. The fallout was swift and unforgiving, with CNN, which had once welcomed her as a co-host for their New Year's Eve special, severing all ties. The media giant refused to cover her or include her in any future projects. Despite her public apologies, the damage was done. What made this ban even more striking was how quickly it shifted from being a high-profile media role to absolute ostracization. Kathy Griffin's blacklisting serves as a reminder of how controversial stunts can have a massive and irreversible impact on a public career. Bill Cosby, 2015. Bill Cosby was once revered as America's dad, the lovable figure who made us laugh in The Cosby Show and captured hearts across generations. But in 2015, the allegations against him grew too numerous to ignore. What started as whispers turned into a flood of accusations, culminating in criminal charges for non-consensual actions. CNN, along with every other major media outlet, turned its back on Cosby, refusing to air interviews or provide any platform for him. His once unimpeachable reputation crumbled, and the media's cold shoulder was a stark contrast to the adoration he once received. The question remains, can someone ever truly recover from a scandal of this magnitude, or is there no return from such a fall? Cosby's blacklisting signaled the beginning of the end for his career in the public eye, leaving many to wonder how one of the biggest stars in television history became untouchable overnight. Bill O'Reilly, 2017. For years, Bill O'Reilly was the face of the O'Reilly Factor on Fox News, commanding the attention of millions. But in 2017, a series of sexual harassment allegations against him forced the network to cut ties with the outspoken host. The scandal was a game changer, and major media outlets, including CNN, swiftly distanced themselves. O'Reilly, once a king of cable news, found himself unable to secure interviews, coverage, or any press from mainstream outlets. What made O'Reilly's blacklisting so jarring was the stark contrast between his rise to fame and the devastating collapse of his career. The media mogul who once shaped political discourse found himself ignored and ostracized, with his voice essentially erased from major outlets. The irony? His departure from Fox News didn't end the controversy, it only made his fall even more public. This is the story of how one man, who wielded so much influence, was suddenly rendered untouchable. R. Kelly, 2019. R. Kelly had built an empire with his soulful music, but his world shattered in 2019 when the Surviving R. Kelly documentary exposed decades of sexual abuse allegations. The fallout from the documentary was swift and brutal. Major networks, including CNN, blacklisted the R&B singer, refusing to air interviews or provide any coverage about him. Once considered a musical genius, Kelly's reputation was irreparably damaged, and the media's refusal to engage with him marked the ultimate form of public exile. The emotional weight of this scandal wasn't just about the music, but the victims' voices finally being heard. Kelly's fall from grace was monumental, but what makes it so chilling is how quickly the media, who once adored him, turned their backs. Once a chart-topping artist, Kelly's criminal charges and the media's response left his career in ruins, and CNN was one of the first to blackball him from the limelight. Jared Leto, 2030. Jared Leto, the frontman of 30 Seconds to Mars and Oscar-winning actor, had a meteoric rise in the early 2010s. However, his reputation took a hit in 2030, following a series of controversial on-set antics while filming Suicide Squad. Known for staying in character off-screen, Leto's behavior alienated his co-stars and led to public backlash. His method acting methods sparked widespread criticism for being unprofessional and over the top, including sending disturbing gifts to his fellow actors. As the film's release approached, media outlets like CNN distanced themselves from Leto, refusing interviews and coverage due to the negative press surrounding him. Despite being part of a blockbuster film, his blacklisting symbolized how quickly the media can turn against a star for seemingly inappropriate behavior. Leto's dramatic plunge from the top highlighted the precarious nature of celebrity, and his future projects became heavily scrutinized by fans and critics alike. His story is a stark reminder that public perception can shift in an instant once adored for his multifaceted talents, now sidelined by a volatile public image. Paris Hilton, 2004 to 2007. In the early 2000s, Paris Hilton was a media sensation. Her reality TV show, The Simple Life, made her a household name, and her lifestyle embodied the epitome of fame and excess. But by 2007, Hilton's public persona began to shift drastically. The media, once enamored with her privileged life, turned on her after a leaked sex tape and multiple run-ins with the law. Paris found herself at the center of scandal after scandal, with arrests and legal issues dominating headlines. CNN and other major networks, which had once avidly covered her every move, began to distance themselves from the socialite. Her once iconic status as a fashion and media mogul was overshadowed by her tarnished reputation, and mainstream media outlets blacklisted her, refusing to feature her in any segments. Hilton's quick fall from grace was symbolic of how the media industry can exploit and then discard a celebrity when their behavior no longer aligns with the public's interests. Despite attempts to reinvent herself, the damage was done, and her media presence was severely limited. Hilton's case serves as a reminder of how quickly a star can be deemed irrelevant by the very outlets that once fueled their fame. Nicki Minaj, 2012. In 2012, Nicki Minaj was at the height of her fame, dominating both the music charts and pop culture. But a bitter feud with Mariah Carey on American Idol escalated into public drama that overshadowed her career. While the spat was initially seen as entertainment, Minaj's subsequent behavior, combustible social media posts, insults, and public rants alienated major outlets like CNN. After Minaj called out CNN for their coverage of the feud, the network stopped featuring her. Once the queen of rap and a cultural icon, Minaj's influence in the media was suddenly restricted. CNN, known for its high-profile interviews and music coverage, refused to include her in any upcoming segments, casting her out of the mainstream narrative. While Minaj's career continued to thrive in the music industry, her presence on CNN was silenced, marking the fall of a pop superstar from the high media perch she once occupied. The public and media alike were quick to punish her for her confrontational stance. The fall of Minaj's media empire highlights how quickly stars who dominate the airwaves can be abandoned when their controversy outweighs their appeal. Was this a case of an artist being too bold for her own good, or was it the inevitable consequence of a heated, high-stakes public feud? Harvey Weinstein, 2017. Harvey Weinstein was once one of the most powerful figures in Hollywood. As the head of Miramax and later the Weinstein Company, he was responsible for producing award-winning films and shaping the careers of many famous actors. But in 2017, the New York Times and the New Yorker published explosive investigations, revealing decades of sexual harassment and assault allegations against him. Weinstein's empire crumbled overnight, and media outlets, including CNN, quickly distanced themselves from him. He went from being a media mogul to being publicly condemned and blacklisted by every major news network. CNN, once a platform where he was lauded for his contributions to the entertainment industry, now refused to cover him. His career, reputation, and public image were obliterated, and his blacklisting by CNN was a clear signal that the media would not tolerate such behavior anymore. What makes this particularly tragic is the scale of his fall, from the highest heights of Hollywood success to being erased from the public discourse entirely. Weinstein's blacklisting by CNN reflected not just the gravity of his actions, but the media's growing willingness to hold powerful figures accountable. His case opened the door for the Me Too movement and forced the industry to confront its deep-seated issues of power abuse. John Mayer, 2010. John Mayer was on top of the music world in 2010, but his career took an irreversible nosedive after a Playboy interview in which he made controversial comments about his past relationships and his own personal life. What was intended as a candid discussion about his romantic history turned into a public relations disaster when Mayer made racially insensitive remarks and spoke openly about his sexual history. The backlash was immediate. Major networks, including CNN, refused to cover him or engage with him in interviews, blacklisting the musician from mainstream media. His charming, once boyish image was tainted, and his reputation suffered as a result. The outcry was so intense that Mayer issued multiple apologies, but it didn't stop the fallout. The media's swift action to distance themselves from him reflected the growing expectation that celebrities must adhere to a certain level of public decorum. Mayer's blacklisting by CNN showed how quickly a beloved star could go from the center of the media universe to being persona non grata. What makes this especially interesting is how Mayer's career trajectory changed. After the controversy, he went from being a pop sensation to a more niche artist. His fall was one of the most public and dramatic shifts in recent memory, and it served as a harsh reminder that in the digital age, one interview can make or break a career. Lindsay Lohan, 2007 to 2012. Lindsay Lohan was once Hollywood's golden girl, talented, beautiful, and on the rise. But by 2007, her once promising career began to falter, spiraling into a pattern of legal troubles, substance abuse issues, and personal breakdowns. Each arrest, rehab stint, and paparazzi snap added fuel to the fire. Lohan's chaotic personal life made headlines, but it wasn't just her actions, it was the way the media, including CNN, reacted to her turmoil. As her behavior grew increasingly erratic, the major networks began to distance themselves. CNN, who had once given her ample airtime, stopped covering her completely, refusing to even engage with her in interviews or show her any sort of media platform. Lohan's public image, once built on youthful charm and talent, was forever tainted by scandal. The world watched as she went from starring in hit films to being a symbol of the Hollywood breakdown. Her story became a cautionary tale about fame's dark side. What made Lohan's blacklisting by CNN particularly shocking was how quickly the public turned on her. The very networks that had once elevated her were now avoiding her, a stark reminder of the media's fickle nature. It was a bitter pill to swallow for the actress, who had once seemed destined for greatness, and her blacklisting signaled the collapse of a once bright career. Justin Bieber, 2013. Justin Bieber's career was one of meteoric rise, but his personal life became a media circus by 2013. From the moment he was discovered as a teen heartthrob, Bieber captivated millions, becoming one of the most beloved pop stars on the planet. But fame came with a price, and his rebellious actions caught up with him. In 2013, the once innocent image of Bieber shattered when he was arrested for DUI, caught on camera using a racial slur, and involved in several other public controversies. Once adored by the media, Bieber quickly became a symbol of celebrity excess and entitled behavior. CNN, among many other networks, refused to cover his story or feature him in interviews, effectively blacklisting the pop sensation. The media's distancing from Bieber was a harsh blow to his career. The networks that once played his music videos on repeat now refused to give him a platform, turning their backs on the very star they had once propelled to superstardom. What was particularly striking about Bieber's downfall was the speed with which it happened. His transition from one of the world's most beloved pop idols to a media pariah was a cautionary tale of how quickly a star can fall. Despite several attempts to clean up his image in the following years, his 2013 scandals would remain an indelible part of his public persona. The decision by CNN and others to blackball him wasn't just a media response. It was a reflection of the public's growing impatience with stars who could no longer control their personal narratives. Bieber's blacklisting was a clear example of how a celebrity can be discarded by the media when their actions no longer serve the public's interest. Britney Spears, 2007. Britney Spears's fall from grace in 2007 was one of the most public and tragic celebrity collapses in history. Once the world's most famous pop princess, Spears' life became a spectacle as she battled with mental health issues, addiction, and public scrutiny. The defining moment of her downfall came in February of that year, when she shaved her head in a frantic display of defiance, signaling the unraveling of her carefully constructed image. But it didn't stop there. Her erratic behavior, including attacks on paparazzi cars and a highly publicized custody battle for her children, turned her into the media's favorite target. The backlash was immediate, and her career seemed to hit rock bottom. What followed was an unprecedented level of media exclusion. CNN, who had once aired her performances and interviews, chose to blacklist her entirely, refusing to feature her on air or engage with her. The networks that had once celebrated her rise to stardom now distanced themselves from her, leaving her in a media vacuum. This sudden silencing of a pop icon was more than just a career setback. It was a reflection of how the media treats stars when their personal crises become too volatile for public consumption. Britney Spears, once beloved by millions, was abandoned by the very institutions that had helped build her career. Her blacklisting by CNN and other major outlets left her isolated, a casualty of the intense scrutiny that fame brings. Despite her later attempts at a comeback, Spears' 2007 breakdown remains the defining moment of her career, symbolizing how a star can be abandoned when they fall from grace. These 15 stars once ruled the media, but a single misstep or scandal led to their blacklisting by CNN and other major outlets. Their stories serve as a reminder of how quickly fame can fade and how the media can turn its back on those it once adored. Who will be next? Like, share, and subscribe for more shocking revelations.